my
Finally.
gosh. I could not see your life. I couldn't see your life on my on you know how you can see people that are alive right on your little bubbles on the top?
Yeah.
Couldn't see that. I couldn't see that. I was like, where is it? And then I started my own life and then anyways, we did it. We were resilient. We pushed through. We're
That's
here.
right. Oh, but I couldn't find it either. So well, this first time,
Listen,
and it'll make good practice for the future.
yes. I know. It's always so funny when I see people's life and they're like, "This is really hard." I'm like, "What can be that hard?" Like it's just a button, and then here we are, trying to figure it out. Oh my gosh. Well, it's beautiful where you
Yeah,
are.
well, it's Palm Desert, and it's beautiful where
Ah,
you're at. You look
it's beautiful.
amazing.
It's beautiful. It's like there's no one cloud in the sky right now. So it makes me happy to have this and not the Seattle dread. Sorry to all the Seattle people here. Sorry, but yeah.
All good. All good. So, Johannes,
Yes.
so you're part of the Cindy Talks team. You just recently came on, and you're a
Yes.
therapist, but you have a specialty to. So, tell me a little bit about what that is, and just tell me a little
Yeah.
bit about it.
Yes. I joined the team recently and I'm so excited. It's such an honor. And I'm also a therapist. I am a drama therapist and a couples and family therapist. So drama therapy is part of what is called the creative art therapies. So it's an umbrella that covers different types of therapies that focuses on externalizing emotions, many of them. So there's art therapy, there's drama therapy, there's music therapy, there's dance therapy, which is writing um, to process trauma, which is one of my favorite after drama therapy. And there is play therapy that's more specifically geared towards children. And so all of those therapies together kind of create this huge umbrella of what is the creative art therapies. And what the creative art therapies do is that it helps the client go a little bit deeper in their processing. Talk therapy is amazing, but sometimes our memories are stored in parts of our brain that we cannot access through language.
Uh
So
huh.
we need to move, right, to a different area of our brain to help us bring those memories to the light. Because we know what stays in darkness doesn't heal, right? If we never know why we're acting the way we're acting, why are we having the triggers we're having? Um, we're never going to be able to heal that. And so, what the creative art therapists do is give some tools to the client so they can access that in a safe way, bring it to the light, and start processing it.
So, is creative therapy, is that just for children, or is that for adults as well?
No, it's for adults, it's especially for adults, because I mean, children, they naturally play. Adults, we lose our ability to play, right? We think there's no time to play. It's all business now. And so the creative art therapies really offers adults an opportunity to achieve that healing they're looking for without really having to talk, without really having to say anything if they don't want to. Some adults are resistant to creative art therapies because they think it's like, what's that going to do for me? But once they start and they start discovering how, I think what happens is that you go deeper quicker
Uh huh.
through these creative art therapies because you are getting, so when we talk, we tend to read the cues from the other person, right? Of like, why are they saying with their body language? And sometimes we tend to change what we say based on that. Like, oh, maybe I was too forward, or maybe I said that in the wrong way. But when you're doing creative art therapies, you are with yourself in creating a painting.
Oh, you froze.
It's you on that painting. Oh,
Oh, you're
am I here?
good. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, you're here.
When you're creating that painting, it's you and that painting. If you're creating a sculpture, it's you and that sculpture. If you are creating a movement, it's you and that movement. And so you are the judge in that moment. And so it kind of brings down the barriers that traditional talk therapy, which is phenomenal. Like I think we need both, the integration of both.
Right.
But when you bring this new layer, it allows people to take some of those barriers down, and then they access their subconscious, which is fascinating to me. You know, the fact that through talk therapy, you're in a lot of control, right? Because you're in analytical brain, you're on your left brain, you're like thinking, processing mentally, trying to make sense of what you're saying. But creative art therapy is a little bit messy because your subconscious comes full force, right, as you allow it. And then a lot of people have intense emotions during these sessions because it really digs deep to the core.
So if I were your client,
Yes,
first of all, how would I find you? Because that's something that I always
yes,
think about any kind of creative therapy being something for children. Because I know my daughter went to, I believe it was art therapy, I believe it
okay.
was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during my divorce, and someone, oh, her pediatrician, was it her pediatrician? I think it was her
Yeah.
pediatrician suggested. So it was interesting. She drew a heart, and it had a picture of a man and a woman. And then through the heart, it was a gigantic picture. It had a big black, um, kind of like a broken heart look.
Mm. Okay.
And I was just really surprised that she drew that, and she was so young.
Yes.
So, so when I'm thinking about that, that's completely different though, right? What you do.
No, really. Of that session that your daughter had?
Yeah.
No, not really. So I'm a drama therapist and I focus more on techniques that are more theatrical, like role play, embodiment. But I also include art therapy because I took some courses during my master's in that area as well. Because all of them integrate beautifully, right? And so when you bring um, some people, some clients are not going to be comfortable with anything theatrical. That's too out there for them, you know? And so art therapy feels like a more contained, um, slow pace. They don't have to, you know, be theatrical in any way. And so for some clients, that's going to be more helpful. Um, Art is something that comes so naturally to kids. You know, that's what they do. They create with pencils and crayons and paint. And so it's a very unique and special way for them to express what they're experiencing. And so that heart that your daughter drew, and then the big black line in the middle. So there's some interpretation that our therapists do without judgment, you know, just like looking at the facts. What do we see objectively in this picture? And so usually black tends to be connected to grief and to losing someone. And so that color black is very connected to when people are going to grieve to grieving, they are going to use that color. That's usually the color that people that have lost a loved one, have gone through a divorce. That's black is usually a color that you're going to see a lot in those kind of drawings. And so when you're trained in this way, you look at the picture and, you know, for an art therapist, it's so revealing, you know, like definitely this child is picking up on what's going on. Because sometimes we think kids are like, oblivious, you know, like they don't
Right.
know what's going on. They're in their own little world, but they're picking up everything that's going on around them. And so when we give them an opportunity to externalize that through these ways, because if you ask, probably if you ask your daughter, like, tell me what's happening, what's in your mind, what's in your heart, she'll be like, quiet, you
Nothing.
know, like I know that
Right.
for my son we had an accident this past week and he was so crazy. And I've been asking him like, you know, for him and he's like not talking about it. But if I give him he loves drawing. So if I give him a piece of paper, I give it to him and he's drawing what's going on, you know, and then I'm able to see what's in his little brain. And so but again, this is not only for kids because I think adults sometimes think that when it when trauma happens, so when trauma happens, our body stores it,
Right.
right? Like the body stores our trauma. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score,
Right. Good
by
book.
the excellent book, yeah, by Bessel. His last name I wrote it here because I know we'll forget Vanderkolk. And it's so wonderful because he talks about this, about how trauma enters through all of our senses, right? Either we witness something visually, we experience something tactile, we heard something, anything. So our brain starts to try to make sense of that experience. And so that trauma is going to be stored in our bodies. And there's another quote that says, the body remembers what the mind forgets. It's by Jay Moreno, which is a drama therapist.
Huh.
And he talks about the same thing, our mind, because our mind is trying to protect us, right? Like the
Right.
goal is to keep you alive no matter what. So if this memory is hindering your thriving, then let's just suppress that and put it over here. And so, but our bodies will remind us. I remember I had a client that she was living in this apartment and she had people living on top of her, and she will hear these steps, and every time the steps will, like, she will be aware of the steps, she'll had a panic attack and she would just be so overwhelmed and she didn't know what was going on. And so later in therapy, we kind of slowly, through drama therapy, we discover, and just doing some enactments of her house and what was she experiencing in the moment, and me getting, being the people in her family, we realized that those steps reminded her of when her father arrived in the home and abused them, and
Oh,
so
wow.
physically abused them. And so you're like, oh my gosh, like it's so crazy what our bodies, and our bodies are giving us signals all the time, right? And I say that our bodies are our best communicators. Like they like, our bodies love us and they want our body wants us to be okay. So when you have a headache, you should pay attention. There's something that's not okay. And I think we're so quick to fix physical things, right? Like anything that's
Right.
physical. Oh, my back hurts. Oh, I'm going to go to the chiropractor or whatever it is. But when we're having, I don't know, like in the book, Van der Kolk talks about having an outburst of anger. These veterans that he worked with had this like crazy outburst of anger from nowhere. And he started realizing that that's where the concept PTSD kind of came on. He realized that they were reliving in their minds what they experienced in combat. And so their bodies, what they will hear like fireworks and they will react to that. So their bodies stored all of that trauma. Um, and so when we give our bodies our opportunity to tell us what's going on, it will. And when we step into a space of safety and containment for us to heal, we can go through that. And finding people that can create that space for us is huge. I think that um, I was saying earlier when I started the live that it's for me, it's such an honor for me to witness people's stories, because I don't think I don't think a lot of people have that opportunity, right? We go through life with our pain and we carry it and we continue until someone says, "No, you can bring it out and you can look at it and you can heal from it." And I always say we never
Right.
get over trauma. That's not something that we do. We get through it. Like we walk every single day through it, getting a little better. And sometimes there are setbacks and then we keep moving forward. But being someone that holds the hand of this person walking through that, I think it's a privilege.
Do you ever, I'm getting out of the sun, do you ever have clients who are completely resistant to working with you or your type or this
Oh,
type of therapy where they're like,
yes.
I don't think so, or I don't want to do that,
Yes,
or, and how,
absolutely.
so how does that work?
Yeah. I love that question. So I always say that the client is the expert on their own lives, right? Like I come here as a companion. I'm not bringing a toolbox to fix you. That's not my job. My job is to create a space, hold a space, allow for you to discover what you need to discover. So if the client comes in, first of all, if they found me because I'm a couples and family therapy and they don't know I'm a drama therapist, I always, you know, share with them, this is something I do. And I allow them, give them the opportunity to choose, we can either do traditional talk therapy, but I want you to know everything I look through the eyes of creativity. Like I'm going to look at your reality through these eyes, and I ask permission, can I bring this up 3 sessions from now and offer an intervention that I think is going to be really helpful for your situation, and they say yes or no. But most of the times when they experience it, they realize how powerful it is. They see that it's not about being a good actor, it's not about being Picasso, it's not about being in Dancing with the Stars. It's not of that. This
Right.
is about the process. It's not the product. The product, we could literally shred that painting. We can just forget about the enactment we just did, and the process that you went through to bring that out is what's valuable. Is That's where the healing is. And so I think because we are performers, right? Like, we as adults, we're interested in the product most of the time.
Mhm.
It takes a little bit of time for me to help them understand that, we're not interested in the product. We're not interested in how good you're painting. Because when I did my training, I'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm so bad at this. Like, I should not be painting right now. And it's the same for my clients. They will be painting and they'll be like, this is horrible. And I have to gently remind them, it's not about the product, it's about the process. Just stay present on what's going on in your body as you're painting this. Like, what are you feeling? Is your heart racing? Is your palm sweating? Is there a knot in your tummy? Like, what's going on
Oh,
inside your
okay.
body as you are creating this? And that's where the value is. And that's what I love writing therapy as well. Because when you connect art therapy or drama therapy with writing, is such a beautiful pair. Because for some people, that's when they're gonna get they're gonna, as they're writing, they're like, oh my gosh, this is what just happened. Like,
Right.
and they kind of like, it comes full force, the realization of the healing process they just went through. Yeah.
Wow. So are you creative personally? Are you a good artist?
I mean, should I give you my therapeutic answer or my
Your real
I
answer.
I
Would you say, "Oh, I'm a good artist," or are you
I
drawing
think
stick people?
I draw stick people. I do love painting. I'm not a painter. I would not consider myself a painter. And that's why I went to focus my master's is in drama therapy, just because I knew art. I can appreciate art. I love engaging in art, but I was an actress before. I was a teacher and then actress before becoming a therapist, and so
Oh,
acting came more naturally to me than painting. But I will use those techniques in session because they're really really powerful. And for some parents like you, when they see their kids drawing, I have to help them not take it personally, because they're gonna like show everything, right? Again, because we're working with the subconscious, and so they are just painting, just drawing, just using figurines, right? And I have to help parents understand, this is not about you. This is not about your experience. It's about their experience, and how, they, for me, I always tell them it's powerful that they're actually saying something through their painting. The scary thing is when they're not saying anything. And I had a client, she had selective mutism.
what's
Um,
that?
Selective mutism is a child that maybe up until 4 or 5 years old, they were talking, and all of a sudden they go mute. They stop talking to anyone. They don't talk to their parents or teachers, nothing. You don't hear their voice. Like, they can, and it's not a physical thing. Although as they stop using the vocal cords, they start getting damaged, but they stop talking completely. And it's usually, you can pinpoint it to a traumatic experience, like an abuse, or a lot of yelling in the home, so the kid kind of shuts down inside. They witness a really really impactful accident, anything like that can trigger selective mutism. And so this little girl, she was 6 and she has selective mutism. Their parents were Latino, actually. And so for me, it was so amazing that they were seeking help, because in the Latino community, that's not something that you usually see. It's considered, you're weak, like, why are you going through therapy? That's not what you do. And
Right.
so for me, it was huge that they were seeking help. And with this little girl, I use sand therapy, which is it's part of the drama therapy kind of umbrella. And so you bring a tray with sand and a bunch of little figurines, you know, all the animals, all the people, places, and they create their play. And you know, she wasn't going to talk to me, and I knew that. And so, at least at the beginning, but through the sand session, the sand therapy session, as they progressed, we were able to realize that she had been abused, you know, and that was because the parents were like, we have no idea. Like, she was talking one day and she stopped talking the next day. Like, it was just a switch for her. And so being able, and that's when our work started, right? Like being able to see, oh, hey, this is what happened. Now we can help support her and help her feel safe in the world again.
Right. So just out of curiosity, did her parents abuse her or did
No,
somebody else
a
abuse her?
family member.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So like I've always been interested. So like say for example, somebody stops talking like you were just saying,
Mm-hmm.
and then if that was their child and they recognize that they probably abused this child,
Mm-hmm.
would most likely they wouldn't get help for that child probably unless an outsider found that,
Yes.
right? Like a
Yes. Yeah.
teacher or something like, okay, we need to get some help and we need to get to the bottom, you know, of
Yeah.
this, right?
Hopefully, I mean, yes, that's what would you expect for from the caregivers, right? To be able to get that help for the child. I think that we sometimes live so quickly that we don't pay attention about our kids' cues and what they're telling us with their behavior, you know. But when you have something as dramatic as this, you know, your kid is talking one day, stop talking the next, you have to question yourself what happened here, right? And yeah,
Mm. Wow.
yeah.
So, Johannes, I know you have your, tell me a little bit about you because I already know about this. I know you're like the most magnificent mom. How many children do you have?
Like 13. I have three.
You have three,
I have
three
three
kids,
boys. Three
three
boys.
boys,
Mm-hmm.
and you live
Florida.
in Miami, Florida,
Florida.
Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Moved here from Seattle 2.5 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. And you have a passion for like what are the things that just that you do every day other than
Bring me
parenting?
joy. Yes. I love break baking sourdough. It's my favorite thing to do. I just have a loaf on my counter to bring to a neighbor. Um, I actually started doing it with my friend Elizabeth during the pandemic in Seattle, and I was hooked. And now it's my favorite thing to do to make bread. I love to dance salsa. I love. It's my husband. I married the only Puerto Rican that doesn't dance, and I love you, babe, if you're watching me. But for some reason, I mean, he can dance. He just doesn't like dancing, and so I'm like, really? I love. I've always loved dancing. So yeah.
I love that. So what are three things that I mean, what inspires you
Hmm.
to get up every day and uh, live life?
Yeah. Um. Honestly, it inspires me. Besides my three children, and you know, help them be humans that love people. Um. It inspires me to better my community. I was talking to my sister about the idea of community, and I was like, man, sometimes I go throughout my life without knowing who my neighbors are. And so I think what inspires me is to be there for others in any way I can. You know, like if it's bringing bread or if it's you know, I don't know, having a conversation on the phone, if it's going getting coffee, like I love being involved in people's lives. I don't know, and that inspires me. You know, really looking for connection. My when I had my private practice, the name of my practice was Connected Family Therapy because I think that when you connect with someone and you see them for who they are, it's I don't know, it can change that person's day. You know, so
Right? Is there somebody who inspires you?
my mom.
Your mom?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what
Mm-hmm.
does she do?
She's right now taking care of my dad that had a stroke a year and a half ago. And she cares for my nephews as well. She's one of these women that I mean, if she was the president of the United States, I mean, I can tell you, this would be,
We would have it
we will
organized.
have it organized. She does it all and does it all with so much love. I've never heard her complain, even when she's sick or like, never heard her complain in my life. Like, she's just, yeah, she inspires me. I literally try to be like her every single day.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Um, I was just having dinner with somebody, and he was telling me last night, I'm going back to work. Um,
yeah,
but he was telling me something which I thought was really fascinating. I thought I have to ask you.
yeah.
So in Seattle, there's the Fry Museum, and it's
Mm,
affiliated with the University of Washington. And right now, there's an exhibition on, excuse me, there's an exhibition on artists who have Alzheimer's, and
mm,
their work. Well, they kind of give the insight, so, something what you were just saying, but they kind of give the insight of what they're thinking and what they're expressing, but in a very different way, in a different
mm,
capacity of mental health.
mm-hmm,
So I just thought it was interesting. I added in the conversation that a lot of times it's the colors, that
mm-hmm,
portray an emotion or maybe the
yeah,
shape of something,
mm-hmm,
or if they emphasize different lines.
yeah,
Is there anything that you could possibly find or kind of describe to others, like what it's like if we were to sit at home and
mm-hmm.
just paint something or draw
Create.
something? Do you think that's a good therapeutic use for most people?
It is. So, specifically in the arts, um, everything has a meaning. So even like if a client chooses color pencils over paint or pastels over acrylics, so even that choice subconsciously tells a lot to the therapist because, for example, pencils are very contained, right? Like color pencils are going to give you a very contained, very structured result. If you use paint, paint is messy. So you're going to see that a lot of kids and adults that have been specifically through sexual trauma, they mostly never choose paint just because it feels too messy, it feels too out of control, it feels too triggering to their sensory um, activation. And so even that first thing of like, what do I choose as my medium in itself in a therapeutic session says a lot. Then you have the positioning, and you were saying that your daughters like draw this huge picture, right? So that the positioning of the work on the page says a lot too. Like if you have a client that draws this little thing on this little corner and didn't use the rest of the paper, that can tell you so many things. It can be that that client feels trapped, that client has very low self-esteem, that client feels disconnected from the rest of the world, so many things. That just that if he uses the whole paper, then that's a different thing. If he uses the middle, just maybe one side over the other, um, all of that. One thing that is huge when specifically kids draw their families is noticing if they left themselves out. So if they draw their whole family, but they didn't draw themselves, that tells you a whole bunch of what's the family dynamics in that family. So what you're saying about this exhibition, the colors, the shape, every single thing has a meaning, right? And sometimes you just look at a picture and you're like, this is really abstract. I have no idea what this is about, right? And because it's the product of an internal processing, um, unless sometimes you talk to the artist, you will assign your personal meaning to that. And the cool thing with art is that the meaning you assign has to do with your own experience, but it tells you a lot about where you are in life. Like maybe I saw a picture, and because I am still nursing my son, I see a mother nursing, right? And the person next to me, what it sees, it's, I don't know, an airplane arriving at an exotic island, because we're in different seasons of life. And so it's really important when it comes to art. That's what I love about it, is that it's so inviting, and everyone in any part of the world, art brings people together. Art helps you connect with yourself. And so bringing that into your process of healing, I will never advise to engage in a therapy, in an art therapy intervention by yourself, right? Like you definitely can journal, right? Like journal in your at your home, write about it, draw things, but processing it, I always say it should be contained, right? Like I say it's kind of a sandwich. I open, like my clients open to me in the middle with process, and then I close them. Like that closing is huge because I don't want my clients leaving my office and then being triggered throughout the day when they are like at work, And so that closing is huge. So this process should happen within a contained space.
And so what if a client gets triggered and you're not there? How do
Yes.
you, okay, so tell us a little bit about that. I
Yeah.
love, I love the triggers because I think a lot of people don't even know what a trigger is, or
Yes.
if they do get triggered, they feel like they're going
I
crazy.
know. Yeah. Especially if you have been shut down before for your triggers, right? If someone have made you feel bad about how you've reacted over something, then you don't, what do I do with this? Um, so one of the things that I do a lot, and this is very common in the creative art therapies, is psychoeducation. So we are going not only to help our client heal and go through their process, but we're going to give them psychoeducation tools to understand what they're going through. So say this client comes because they are experiencing depressive symptoms, and they are, they're not eating, they're not sleeping, they feel sad most of the day. We're going to give education of what's happening in your brain that this is going on, what's happening in your body that this is going on. How can you identify when the trigger is coming up, and the trigger, and then we help them understand what those triggers are and give them tools to work through that. Like if it's anxiety, like maybe what is one trigger can be, I don't know, when you Sunday, it's Sunday and Monday you have to work. That Sunday you're like anxious all day long. Okay, what can you do? So these are some tools you can do. These are some things you can do. You can sit down and write down all that's in your head, like do a brain dump of what you're feeling in the moment. What are you feeling right now about Monday? And I always love doing this, and this is part of the drama therapy. Imagine the worst case scenario. What's the worst thing that can happen tomorrow at work that is creating that anxiety, and let's talk about that. Let's bring it here. Okay, that will happen. Your boss will yell at you. Okay, and then what will happen after that? And when we play out in a more, not playful, but like in a role play way, I think when we see things very close, they feel like so big. When we
Right.
gain perspective and we talk them out, it's like, oh, like I have clients all the time being like, oh, I can do that. Like, that doesn't sound that bad. Like, in
Right.
my head, it was huge. And it's true. In our head, it feels so big and so impossible to tackle, to tolerate, to go through. But when we talk about it and someone else is giving us permission to feel whatever we're feeling, then we're able to be like, okay, I rehearsed this. Tomorrow's Monday, but these are the things I can do. And so understanding triggers and having a toolbox is part, I mean, most of the work happens outside of the therapy session, right? Because there's a lot that happened there, but outside, like you're saying, when this person is not with you, helping
Right.
them breathe through, helping them, ground and regulate when you're not there, giving them these tools is it's really, really huge and important.
Wow. Okay. So you are now part of the Cindy Talks team,
Yes.
and right now you're bilingual, and
Yes. See, see, see.
and you're writing the Under the Orange Blossoms in Spanish, and then
Mm-hmm.
you're also transcribing the website,
Yes.
and then also videos too.
Yes.
So, what do you think about this process of reaching a Hispanic, like the Hispanic culture? And
Yeah.
do you feel that there's any need, or is it just everybody has a need to learn? But what do you think?
Yeah. I think that so in the Hispanic community, there is a lot of taboo. I think also in the, in any community, but the Hispanic community is known for, you know, this specific area of abuse is like, you don't talk about it.
Mhm.
And the sad thing is that happens generationally. So you have the abuse happening, from the father to their child to their grandkids, and no one's talking about it. No one's saying anything.
Right,
So I think that having a resource like this, like your website and your book in Spanish, can really allow for people that will never be like, oh no, this is not okay. Like,
right,
this is something that needs to be talked about, stopped, fixed, and dealt with. Um, it opens that door to allowing people from different countries, because Spanish is a big language, as we know. A lot of
right.
people speak Spanish, and so I think allowing your book is just such a beautiful story of resiliency. And so I think when people see that, not only seeing like, oh man, like I went through this or my child went through this, but knowing like there's hope. I think that's my one thing that I have taken away from your book, the hope that it brings. The possibility of healing, the bravery of stepping out, and again, like from a drama therapy perspective, taking some perspective and seeing your reality for what it is, and taking some kind of control of your healing. So for me, thinking about people that I know in my life that don't speak English, for them to read a book like that and have access to resources, it's really cool. And in the world we live, I think it's so beautiful to create spaces where most people are welcome, and breaking that language barrier and saying no. I think the message when we and part of the reason why I said yes to this project with you is because, as I said earlier, connecting with people is huge, and I think language can be a barrier for that to happen sometimes. And so when you take away that barrier, to then that's it. Then you have the vulnerability, and then you have the opportunity to connect with that
Yeah.
person. So
Well, I think hope is like such a crucial part of our existence. We always want to know that we're going to improve, that we're going to live a better life,
yeah,
or that we could come through and we're resilient just in nature as
absolutely.
humans are. But the
Mm-hmm.
fact that I think you're right about the cultural aspect of it, and I think in the Hispanic, and I know I'm generalizing, but I don't mean to, but historically,
Mm-hmm.
old world families,
Mm-hmm.
or I think it's like old world thinking a little bit. And some of
Mm.
that when I don't want my children, or I look at other, where sometimes you have to go, no, we've got to change this. We have to speak up. We need to
Yeah,
talk about these. These things are all old and we cannot keep
yeah,
silent.
yeah.
And so I think that's really, I love the fact that it's you with your history. You're so vibrant, um, and your education and what you have a passion for what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't even thank you enough for being on our team. We're so blessed and so lucky to have you.
I'm so excited. I am really, really excited. I cannot wait to. I think I've told so many people I'm translating a book to Spanish. Like, it just makes me so excited to create this because, right now I'm staying with my children most of the time. And so having a way that I can, um, with this kind of work, I have the opportunity to bring my passions together, therapy and just culture, together. It's really beautiful. So I have to thank you for giving me the opportunity because I'm just so thrilled, and I can wait. I cannot wait to see how many people your book is going to continue to impact and help and uplift, in the midst of such, dark times. Because sometimes, actually, like, I'm thinking, sometimes that's all people have. It's a book. It's this memoir. Is this experience of someone else that is helping me walk through until I have the bravery to do it too, to like actually face, um, my abuser, or face my abuse. And I think books are really powerful, really, really powerful. So
So too.
yeah.
Well, Johannes, it was so lovely talking to you. I think you've enlightened a lot of people
Yeah.
on what you do, and I think people are really interested to hear your perspective on creative art therapy.
Yes, yes. We have a
It,
question here. We have some
it
questions. Let me
was
see.
about if you could recommend a family therapist, some family therapist.
Yes. Yes. So I will reach out to you. So this is one of my friends, friend Ali. But choosing, I always say choosing a therapist is like, I don't know, like getting that really good pair of shoes that fit really well and you can walk with them like comfortably enough, because you can put one on and you're like, oh, these are good. But then there's some shoes that you're like, I feel like walking on the clouds. So that's the same thing with a therapist. You want to find a good fit. And it's like, I had clients coming to me and being like, no, it's not the best fit. And it's like, perfect. Like, it's important for you to find a person that aligns with your values, a person that, I mean, some people, sometimes it's funny, but older people used to see me like, you're so young. And I'm like, well, I do have some experience, like I also know what I'm doing, but I think it's huge for you to feel comfortable enough with that therapist. So there's a lot of criteria when you look for it. But if you go to Psychology Today or there's also BetterHelp now. Those two resources you can put specific criteria, like if it's for kids, if it's specifically to help with trauma or ADHD or self-regulation or growth or whatever it is, family dynamics. You can go to those two and you put your zip code and they will show up. If you want a creative art therapist, you put there, you can choose that criteria, that filter too.
Well, that's good.
I want a drama therapist or music therapy or someone that is Christian, so whatever it is, all of those little details.
Uh-huh.
And then usually therapists have a free consultation and you can go and get to know them. And that first initial, I mean, we're in the era of the vibe, right? Like you have this, sometimes you're like, oh, that's not a good vibe. I don't think that's for me. And that's great. Like you can move on to the next one until you find a good fit for you. And I always say, even the first call that you take to call and make an appointment, the research says that there's healing happening. Your brain is already rewiring. Because you are moving towards hope and
I believe
towards
that.
change.
Yeah.
Yes. And so we always say, if it's your husband that needs therapy, have him call. Don't make the appointment for him, have him call, because in that action you are already creating new neuropaths in your brain towards healing. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yeah. Hmm.
Yes, I mean,
Beautiful.
we could be talking for hours, but
Well, obviously, you have so much passion for what you do
I
and
do.
love for others. So I just want to thank you. Seriously, thank you for being on and chatting.
Thank
It
you.
was beautiful.
Thank
Okay.
you, Cindy. I'll
Thank
see you
you.
soon.
Love and light to
Bye.
everybody else.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you for joining us. Bye.